My mom would be so proud that I'm standing behind a podium at a church. That was her wish for me many years ago. It just didn't work out that way. Um, but welcome to it says 7th Annual Safety and Faith Summit. Actually, it's the 8th. On June 17th of 2015, I happened to be in Washington, D.C. at the National Executive Institute, a training for leaders in the largest law enforcement agencies in the country. And it happened that we had a free night from our coursework. And the other sheriff who was in the program with me at the time, Al Cannon, who was the sheriff in Charleston, South Carolina, he and I and several others went to a Washington Nationals baseball game together. And when we were at that baseball game, Al got a call that there was a shooting in a church in his community. At the Emmanuel AME church, where a white supremacist walked into a church and started executing people that were there for a prayer meeting. I walked Al Cannon back to our hotel so that he could get on an airplane and go back to Charleston. But as we were walking back, I was able to hear his side of the conversation. I didn't know what was going on the other side, but I could only imagine some of that. But I was able to pick up on some things. But most importantly, what it caused me to do is the following week when I came back to work and sharing some of that experience with members of my staff, I asked the question, how connected are we to our faith community? And if we had a similar circumstance, how would we be able to respond? What would our connection be? And the answer was, while we do things pretty good, we could do better. And so out of that, I threw down a challenge to my public affairs team, and they rose to the challenge. And they said, we can do this in 6 weeks. So the first Safety and Faith Summit happened that year in 2015, 7 years ago, but this is the 8th annual. I counted it like 7 times on the way here while I was stuck behind a traffic accident. Just had a little extra time to count. But it is a great honor to be able to have facilitated this for the last 8 years. This will be the final time that I facilitate a Safety and Faith Summit. I do not believe that it will be the last that the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office hosts. But I want to welcome you to this Safety and Faith Summit. And as we get ready to get going, I have a couple of questions. Who is at a Safety and Faith Summit for the first time? Quite a few people. And another question, who has never been to a Safety and Faith Summit previously? A lot of the same people. Now, some people didn't raise their hands, so I presume that you have been here before, and I recognize some faces. But I do have another question. And even though we did one of these online, who has been to all of the Safety and Faith Summits? Thank you all. So our hope with this, this is not a religious event. This is a community event in the hopes that we can make our community safer, recognizing that soft targets sometimes have the opportunity to be preyed upon, and that if we could have some conversation and shared understanding and learn from one another's experiences, that we could do what we hope to do in our mission statement at the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. And our mission statement is simply this, that that we want Jefferson County to be a safe place for all people to live, learn, work, and play. And I would add to that worship. Whatever the faith is. This is not faith specific. We do get criticism when we host this that we have not sufficiently separated church and state. This is not about faith. This is about protecting our communities in one segment. The same way that we would engage in conversation with schools, with people who own stores and shopping malls. So hopefully there will be things that you learn. And I'll ask you a question at the end of the day. Did you learn something? And if you did, or if you're inspired and you're going to do something to make your house of worship just a little bit safer, then we succeeded with the event that we planned. We made Jefferson County just a little bit safer. I also recognize that not everybody in this room probably is from a house of worship that's in Jefferson County. Who here is a spy from another county? I love it. If you tell me privately what county you're from, I will go poke the sheriff in the chest from your county to do the same thing. I'll talk to your incoming sheriff, Curtis Johnson, about that opportunity. As we get going with this, there are a couple of things that we do, and I'm going to invite up Chaplain Quinn Wilhelm. He is a chaplain with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office to provide an invocation. And immediately following that, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Honor Guard will present the colors. So would you please join me, stand up as we have an invocation and then also the presentation of colors.
Well, good morning. If you'd join me, please. If you'd join me, please. There we go. Gracious and ever-present God, it just speaks volumes. In the land of the free, we find ourselves meeting for the purpose of maintaining safety and worship. My prayer this morning as we begin is that you, in your magnificent efficiency, would do a far greater and deeper work in addition to the purpose for which we have gathered. God, I pray that you would knit the hearts of your people together and help us to hear your call to us as leaders of your church. We humbly ask for your blessing and help today and your presence with us. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, folks. Thank you, Honor Guard. This is not a church service. You can cheer for that Honor Guard. And go ahead and please have seats. I hope that people pick up on the title of this. There's a little bit of a nuance. We titled this purposefully 8 years ago as Safety in Faith. We did not title this Security in Faith. Security in faith being perhaps maybe just focused on one aspect of how do we keep places secure, but safety in faith so that we would have the holistic look in terms of the institutions that we might look to protect, not just in a security fashion, but in a safety fashion, recognizing that far more likely than having an assailant walk into a house of worship, that on any given Saturday or Sunday morning or Wednesday evening service, that we're more likely to have somebody who would have a heart attack than those things happening. So that we have to be mindful that there are many things that can happen, and we have to look more holistically. So that is at the spirit of this. Also at the spirit of this is not about the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. I just happen to be in a role where I could be inspired by my interaction with Sheriff Al Cannon 8 years ago. But this is about a relationship between houses of worship throughout Jefferson County and Boulder and other counties, wherever they may be, so that they could learn, and our public safety institutions that exist. And so I have several partners here that I would like to invite up onto the stage. And they're not going to speak. They don't have speaking parts today, but you just get a look at them. And they will have staff, and I might miss a couple, but Arvada Fire and Rescue Chief Mike Piper is here. Mike, if you wouldn't mind joining us on the stage. Edgewater Chief of Police, and brand new to the area, Eric Sonstegard. Lakewood Chief of Police, Ed Lohr. I didn't see Ed first thing this morning. He may have been stuck behind the same accident I was. Arvada Deputy Chief Ed Brady. Westminster Chief of Police, Norm Hobart. And I may have missed some of our partners, and I haven't forgot, and our District Attorney, Alexis King. These are people who lead organizations. Who did I miss? You have to stand up and let me know. Not seeing any hands go up. Apparently, they haven't been here before either. But these are people who lead organizations that help in the safety of many institutions. They protect the rights of victims. They stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves. And they lead people who are going to run towards danger. That's just what we do. These folks I have shown up here today because there is also information that is outside at the tables. And I would ask that when we are on breaks, please engage the tables that are out there, whether they are represented by one of these leaders or not, or another table. There are several that are out there. There is also several members of my staff that are here today, leaders in the organization. Division Chief of Patrol, Scott Posick, Investigation Division Chief Todd Reeves, the Chief of Support Services, J.D. Jepkema, and there are other staff members. In particular, I want to recognize my public affairs staff, Jenny Fulton, and the entirety of the staff, Renee Dugweiler, Carlin Tilley, Jackie Kelly, probably others that I'm forgetting who helped put this event together. Well, they don't help. They do it. They just give me a script and say, don't screw it up. But thank you all for that. But we don't come up with the curriculum on our own. We have a sounding board, committee members of the Safety and Faith Committee. Those folks are here. They're wearing lanyards. You might be able to see them throughout the day, but I'm going to ask them to stand up where they are. Michelle Kircher, Tom Mills, Pete Palmer, Rick Ritchie, Melody Roby, Larry Swartz, and Dave Smith. So other than the very first, these folks, or many of these folks, and some have been doing this for the entirety of the time, have come and met with us when we've asked the question, what's important? What kind of things should we talk about? What do you hear in your house of worship that might be valuable or in your course of study? And they have helped us put the curriculum together for each of these as we've put them together. I have mentioned a little bit about the story, the background, but I just want to reiterate that the goal of today, the goal of the Safety and Faith Summit that we have had, and the Safety and Faith Coalition that has developed, an information sharing coalition, was developed just to strengthen the partnership between various institutions in our faith community and our public safety providers. Because one of the worst things that could happen is if, God forbid, something were to happen in a house of worship in Jefferson County, again, and it has happened before, that we wouldn't know each other when we first showed up. So these leaders who are up here, members of my staff, people who are on the coalition, please make sure that you get to know them, and we will try to do the same throughout the day. So I thank you all for being here. None of you have a speaking part, just so that we can make sure that this day is done efficiently. There are information tables that are out in the foyer. I know many of you had opportunity perhaps to engage with some of those. I would encourage you to do so. Sheriff's Office Crime Prevention and our victim advocates, the American Red Cross, Arvada Fire Protection, the District Attorney's Office, the Golden Police, Nicoletti, Flater, and Associates. You'll be hearing from John Nicoletti a little bit later today, and that has to do with psychological support. Some of what we do within our local law enforcement agencies and fire services, but also in other institutions. The Porchlight Family Justice Center, the Rocky Mountain Police and Fire Chaplains, West Metro Fire, and there are probably others out there too that I have missed. But let's get going. Let's get going with our first